So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next round. I'm very, very happy to invite not only one of my closest and dearest friends, but also, the kind of people you should talk and hang out with at the party and later on, because they can tell you a lot of stories about the whole fact that we are not talking about the future. They are actually living the life of a creative technologist every day. Right. So, I'm very happy to welcome Billy Whitehouse. Come here, darling. Yes, you can applaud. We have Dr. Amanda Parks, Tauan Bernardo, and here we go, and Tania Santos. Come on, darlings. So, yes, this was announced to be a panel, and I'm being a little bit disruptive. We are not going to do a panel, because panels are only interested when we start to fight about something. If we agree, it becomes boring, and we all agree that we are creative technologists. I'm giving the stage now, because I talked enough, I'm giving the stage now to everyone who will just tell you a story from like their daily life. Why are they doing this? How they got to it, because we can learn a lot from all of the individual journeys. And I'm also very happy with that we are matching the international audience with the local audience, because let me tell you, in Porto, there's going on really cool shit. But, we will come to that. So, first of all, I'm very happy to introduce you to the wonderful Billy Whitehouse. Remember the yoga pants? We will demonstrate that later. So, Billy, this is all yours. I'll just sit in the corner here and listen.
Hi, my name is Billy Whitehouse. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. So my career in creative technology, for lack of a better term, really started by building products, just testing and iterating and trying something out. I actually truly believe that ignorance was my best friend because I didn't know how hard it was. I just kept trying and kept learning. And so I've built many products. Everything always starts in a prototype form, and then eventually you can take a product to market. The first product we brought to market was a product called Nardi X, which you saw just before. So there we go. So there are 5 accelerometers and 10 haptic motors built into these pair of pants. Does anyone know what a haptic motor is? It's exactly the same actuator or vibration sensor built into your smartphone. And your smartphone has 1, and we have 10 in these pairs of pants. And it means that we can create directional movement in the garment, the same way you would get a direction on the body if you had a private instructor. The vibrations can guide you by vibrating up or down or around the body to show you how to move into each pose. And then paired with our software, they actually let you know if you made it into the pose or if you should go back and try again. Essentially, I discovered that I was spending an extraordinary amount of money going to the gym. In fact, America in general spends like over 80 minutes a week at the gym, and they spend over $80,000 on the gym every year, but it's the fattest nation in the world. So it's one of those strange conundrums where we spend money and we spend time on fitness, but we actually don't do the right things for our body. My main point in life is I want technology to feel human. And touch is one of our most interesting and important languages that we communicate with. I truly believe that everything on this planet is vibration, and that is an object or a light or a sound, and it's actually a language that we just haven't tapped into for a really long time. So that is my medium of creating technology. I, in fact, started in a slightly more entertaining way. I made a product called Funderwear, which is vibrating underpants for couples in long-distance relationships. Yes, this is a male and female version. Essentially, you could send your partner vibrations via your smartphone to their underpants so that they could be stimulated wherever they are. We can talk more about that product later, I'm sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So also just keep in mind you can ask questions later on, because after this is the lunch break. So we'll make sure we'll just stay together because, of course, we would like to know more about the use cases for Funderwear. So now we're going on. We have somebody with a doctor title, and from MIT, Amanda. The stage is all yours.
Okay. Thank you. I don't even know what you said about me, but I will basically start off by saying thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. I love Porto, and so happy to see these wonderful ladies and meet you guys. So great honor. Basically, I have always been this kid, and I still am this person who's like equally, excited to fix my weird metal blue car and paint it in my overalls, as also fall in love with little, with pink hot pants. And so somehow I've managed to kind of build a career around this, and I was lucky to kind of have a great kind of family and education that no one told me that this was weird. So here's sort of a snapshot of what my life is now. I spent 11 years between Stanford and MIT, a lot of college, a lot of research, and working both as a mechanical engineer and then all the way up through getting a PhD that's hybrid between computer science and material science, and then went on to found a startup and also help a lot of companies develop technology startups. So in the beginning, I was working on things like everything from small mobile robots, like you see in the bottom, to Popo, all the way up through kind of large-scale installation work. On the top right, there's something that we built in Tokyo, an interactive floor space where you walked on it, and it had it gave off ripples into what was then an LED surface, but then they expanded into literally the physical water next to it and came back in. So a lot of my work basically is all kind of themed together around the interrelationship of the digital and physical. So that duality has been where I've sat a long time. And what sits at that duality is materials. How do we kind of change the signaling between the digital and physical? So from there, after MIT, I founded an algae biofuels company, which was it makes sense in context, but I spent a lot of time trying to optimize photosynthesis and think about how digital technology really can work on organisms, so biology and the future of biotech in terms of biofabrication. But still now went back to my first love, which is really working around the body and working around fashion. And now I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of two companies, one called Future Tech Lab, which is an investment company which we invest in startups that are working on new sustainable material science technologies, specifically around textiles, but the expansion of that, as well as we also have a consumer-facing brand called Pangaea, where we're using a lot of these new material development to put into products. So for example, on the top left, you have the first ever product made from waste wildflower down. So it's like basically waste product that replaces goose feathers. It actually has better thermal conductivity, and it's built with a very high-tech process involving aerogel. So what we call this is high-tech naturalism, where we're taking the extreme processes of biotech and material science and infusing the natural world to create a more sustainable supply chain. So I think that the other element of what I'm doing is, I've spent a lot of time trying to manufacture the kind of things that you guys were talking about, these, electronics inside of clothing, the wearable tech. And one of the things that we kept hitting this edge of, well, actually, we don't have the parts, we don't have the materials to move on appropriately. So we have to really re-engineer our supply chain of materials around fiber science, nanotech, and material science to be able to build the next generation of these clothes. So starting here with things like seaweed fiber and flower down, but moving, also into things that are like actual, what you see in the bottom right, which is dissolvable circuits that's made of silicon magnesium. And that's really where the future of interactivity and sustainability can come together.
Great, but it also means this is no coincidence that you're in Porto at the moment.
No, I mean, you guys have amazing manufacturing. We manufacture those seaweed T-shirts here and parts of the flower down jacket, and then we also share between Italy. But yeah, there's a lot of amazing work going on here, and super excited to get to know the city more.
Thank you. So now we have the minority. Hello, Tauan.
Hello.
So the interesting thing is when I met Tauan and went to his Fab Lab, to Viva Lab, the first thing what I saw was 3 girls sitting on the desk programming Arduinos. And they looked very happy. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Also because Fab Labs are enabler places But they're usually, you know, from experience also, because like I started my first company out of Fab Lab, it's usually like there are a lot of men, it's like dirty, and they're making robots and stuff, and then like it's really difficult for designers to go in. So it's very important to create a culture where everybody is welcome, and we felt very welcome in your place. So it would be really, it would be, you know, if you can tell us a little bit, like, you know, why is somebody doing a Fab Lab, like especially now in Porto? What are your plans for that? Thank you. And like, where can I buy these glasses?
I don't know. I still not made it. I give you a call for. Well, my name is Tauan. I'm Brazilian. I'm a product designer. And I found my company in Brazil, a product design company, as soon as I graduated. And for 8 years, I developed projects for tech-based companies. And over those 8 years, I had seen thousands of companies failing. And in my search to understand as product designer why those companies are failing so much, I start to find new technologies, new human technologies to understand, okay, how we can change that. So I stumbled upon different subjects like 3D printing, open source, open design, Fab Labs, and finally, I find something that circle everything that I was searching, that was the maker movement. So when you need to fix something in your house, probably a lot of you already search in YouTube tutorial to how to do something, yeah? Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the maker movement. There is a lot of events, parties. Like right now, we have a Maker Fair in Lisbon happening. There is a lot of different projects, amazing projects that are solving big problems. There is a lot of different communities, and there are those spaces where you can go and find a 3D printer, electronics, laser cutter, CNC, and someone to help you to use that. And right now, we are more than 106,000 Fab Labs around the world. So the maker movement is not exactly a small movement, and is growing. And as I see, it has a potential to change a lot of different things and give answer to a lot of different subjects and discussions and problems that we face today in this conference. So right now, I opened a Fab Lab here in Porto that is focused in design and innovation. So we try to take all these projects, all this technology, and try to bring to the community and to the entrepreneurs and everyone. But we have a great point of interest in our Fab Lab, that is education. In our Fab Lab, we have all the machines, and we put the kids to use those machines. It's really cool to see a young girl using electric tool machine like a jigsaw. And in our space, we are not focusing in teach robotics or programming. For us, robotics is just a way to move things. There is a different ways to move things. We are trying to teach kids how to act upon their imagination, because they need to learn how to think, how to create, because they need to be prepared for a job that do not exist yet. So that is me and my partners are trying to do, to bring a little bit of this dream of that circle around the maker movement to the rest of the community. Just that. Thank you.
I'm really glad you mentioned education, because of course there's the whole debate, especially in software engineering and overall, where are the women? we are sitting here. So I actually wanted to ask Billy, because, you know, so you're a woman and, you know, you have a textile background, but like, so like how do you end up, in terms of education, you know, it's like telling the teachers and the systems today, so like how can we replicate people like you from an education point? You know, was there something... I know, but you know, in end of the day, this is like what the teachers and the systems are asking, is like, is there like a scalable way how we can, on the one side, get more women into this field, but also on the other side, we're not only talking about women, there's also like 50 shades of gender in between, we have to say that as well, but like getting more diversity into this white guys, sorry dudes, industry. Like, what would have helped you? Can you, yeah.
I mean, I have a unique case study, I suppose, of my own life. I did like advanced mathematics in high school, and no one ever told me that that could lead to an engineering degree. I went to quite a formal all-girls boarding school, and it was just not expected that that would be a career that I would go after. So I think it honestly starts, there's like a bottom-up approach that starts there, which is, you know, allowing young women and men and everything in between to like have an understanding of what exists out there in this platform. And I think, I mean, I'm from Australia, if you couldn't tell. Perhaps the Australian education system isn't quite up to speed internationally. And so perhaps these things are already happening in a you know, far away landscape, and I'm not seeing it. But from a learning gap, it was actually more of a personal journey of not being afraid to just learn something new all the time. And that to me was far more important. I truly like soldered and sewed into the wee hours of the morning with my engineering team in building the first ever prototypes of Funderwear for every weeknight, because we both had full-time jobs. So we had 9 to 5 jobs, and then our side projects started at 5 p.m. and they'd go until 2 a.m. And the hustle and feeling of just learning something new every night about a project that you care about, that was what got me through. That's what kept me up. That's what made me learn something and kept me in this industry. From my perspective, it's a personal excitement. That's what helps you learn.
So it's like, I love that, because I can, you know, just do stuff all the time, break it, do it again over and over and over, which is actually a perfect segue to Tania, because when I met her, can you like add another slide, because like I love this picture of you. Tania is kind of like, I think she has like 2 extra sets of arms and brains, because she's so super busy and in everything. When I came to Porto, I was like, yeah, Tania is involved in that. I was like, oh, okay. Right, and I really liked, I give it to you because they're your photos, when we met and we like immediately clicked. So tell us a little bit, what you're doing, because you're doing a lot. This is also, we still have 15 minutes, so go for it.
This is on? Yes. So thank you for the nice intro. My name is Tania Santos, and I'm from Porto. And 8 years ago, I created a place called CRU, and CRU is a creative hub that in the same place, it joins several departments, let's say. We have a designer store, we have a co-working space for creative activities, we have an art gallery, and we have some workshops for more dirty works, and don't get me wrong. And when I created that, I created for a reason, because I was surrounded by creatives, and I noticed this need from them to have a proper place to work, to have a proper place to exhibit their work, because they were emergent artists, they were people that were reinventing themselves during a period of crisis. So we were really trying to get up after the financial crisis of 2008. And people were reinventing themselves. So we had designers that started to design clothes instead of doing graphic design, or even architects doing jewelry or creating brands and being entrepreneurs. So we thought that we could create an harbor for those people, a hub, an epicenter, and create a community around people that, artists, creators, makers. At that time, I had a dream because I don't consider myself a technologist, but more a maker. I come from psychology, I'm working on creative industries, and I'm making a master's on economics and innovation management, so it's a mix of a lot of stuff. But in my heart, I'm a maker. And on the period that I opened Crew in 2012, I wanted to have a maker space. But at that time, nobody even knew how to spell co-work correctly. So people didn't know about the concept of working together to share ideas, to share the space, to collaborate instead of a state of competition. So we had to create awareness for this kind of new model of work. And we didn't want to be the first movers on the makerspace and Fab Lab kind of stuff. So we left this for others. And nowadays, Porto is a very rich city on spaces to create, collaborate, share ideas, and to innovate. We had like more than 40 co-working spaces. We have some creative hubs. We also have some maker spaces, Fab Labs. One of the best, I think, is Billa. We get along very, very, very well. In fact, also one of our concerns was to help these young and creative entrepreneurs to be based on what they do. So we create a lot of actions in Crew that helps them personally, professionally, and even in an inspirational way. So the technology part was also very important for us, and we create several occasions to make this part of our routine. Some of the actions that we make is workshops. This one particularly was in collaboration with Tauan from Viva Lab, and also with a jewelry maker.
You designers started to work with the technologists?
Yes, with the help of a creative also. With a jewelry maker and a Pina from Tinka Lab. So we joined the three of us together and prepare a workshop for jewelry makers to, what did we call it? Digital fabrication for jewelry makers, something like that. So part of the workshop was at Crew, part of the workshop was in different maker spaces that existed at the time, and the result of the workshop was a collection, a new collection from these artists, and resulted in an exhibition in Tinka Lab, that is a space also for jewelry makers. Also, we organize exhibitions. We have a gallery, an art gallery, and we are in synchrony with the flow of the exhibitions of the art block that we are in. And we create also some opportunities for people that want to melt technology and culture and art and be represented in the arts block of Porto. I still have 1 minute to talk about another thing. Yes. Another hat that I wear nowadays, besides Crew, is the hat of board member board of directors member of the Creative Hubs Network, European Creative Hubs Network. And that is a network that unites and connects several creative hubs that are places that are harbors for these creative people, that provides space to work, but not only, also provides services that helps them on their professional lives. And especially in the creative and cultural sector. And being part of that gave me the opportunity of meeting a lot of different creative hubs around Europe. And the trend is really to implement these maker spaces, these fab labs, these tools into the workspace. So people can work in their daily lives and be connected with other kind of mindsets, with other kind of tools. So people can do things differently in another way, experiments, tests, things that they never had the opportunity before. And for this, at this moment, we are applying for a European Commission's call to create also a mobility program for makers. So we are trying to get a special mobility program like Erasmus for young entrepreneurs or all other kind of mobility programs, specially designed for makers, makers of all kinds, technologies or not. So they can move from places to places in Europe and can learn and be more connected. The arts and technology could be more blended in this way.
Amazing. I'm going to apply. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Also, we have to say, like, especially like for people who want to stay here now, you should, are already here. You're actually running your own event next week, right? Next weekend.
Yes, this is part of also our mission and our job. Next Friday starts an event called Indie Workers Bootcamp, and is designed for freelancers and solopreneurs from the creative industries that wants to be inspired and to be upskilled, let's say, because we'll have theory and practice workshops, flash class, speakers, international speakers, and it will be awesome. So check it out.
We will be there on the bar, as always.
Lisa will be there also.
So the interesting thing, Amanda, is that we talked about this. It's just like, from a European perspective, we always kind of looked to the US, like what are the new trends, what's going on, and then you might travel there, get inspired, going back to Europe and trying to replicate it. What is actually happening here now, I kind of get the feeling it's now doing the other way around. Right? Because like, especially for the two of you, like coming here and say, like, okay, this is actually the heaven, what we actually need, where the technology and the manufacturing capabilities and the design actually meet together.
Yeah, there's a couple different things going on. I think as we start to think about sustainability and circularity in the context of new tech development, we're now in a place where, first of all, the startup innovation economy is no longer focused on Silicon Valley. That's not the essence of what's going on there, and a lot of the models of Silicon Valley are broken, which that's a whole other conversation. But so what we're seeing is really global innovation and innovation happening in where it should be happening. So where are the raw materials and people doing development around waste of banana plants? Well, that's happening in Indonesia, right? And so you have a startup coming from there. So I spent a lot of my time traveling the globe, finding all these innovations, and also again with university research. Again, that's spread across the globe. There's the U.S. doesn't have any monopoly on innovation materials research. So that to me is one really important thing about how we're changing this global economy. Around this. And then as well, exactly, the manufacturing hubs and cities and countries that have a history of manufacturing, like Portugal, Italy, different parts of Southeast Asia, which have been somewhat overlooked, and now also moving into Africa, places that have manufacturing and raw materials, they're incredible resources and places to go. So how about we move the innovation talent to where the materials are, put the manufacturing where the materials are, and kind of regroup globally that way. So we're really focused on that. There's no single hub. So, yeah.
Great. Also, because I know you're always looking for investments, and since you're here for a couple of days, can you expand a little bit? Like, what is your target? What are you looking for?
Yeah. So we, part of, and I should say one thing is that I switched. I had helped build the technology for lots of startups, and what I saw internally is that we were basically all the money was going to the wrong places. Especially being a woman inside of raising for tech companies. I mean, it was just a nightmare. I have a lot of stories on that for later tonight. But basically, I decided to sort of switch sides temporarily, become the person who does the technical due diligence for startups. And I would kind of have a voice in where the money went, because let's be clear, that's how things end up getting made. And so basically, we are looking for companies. So I just wanted to explain that I'm not some kind of finance person. This is me. This is the way I'm contributing to the future, is to sort of figure out, to try to help get the money to the right, where I think the right places are. But we are looking for all sorts of innovation that basically is, sustainable, contributes to the circular economy, and also has a high-tech focus. So things like biofabricated ink. So you sample a color from the natural world, take the DNA, transpose it into a microbe, and then grow that microbe. So you brew the ink in a laboratory. It's a naturally occurring ink, so it's a natural dye, but it's grown in a laboratory without all the resources of land and pesticides and water and all of that. So those are the kinds of things, and there's a whole lot of companies that are working across this. I mean, Europe is great because a lot of these companies get a lot of government funding. Like in France, they barely even need our investment. But the companies can get really further without money than in the US.
Excellent. Tauan, also, we're talking about sustainability. There's a huge debate about is actually, if we start to add electronics into textile, is this actually anti-sustainable?
Yeah.
Then, and then you have this whole plastic thingy around and something like that. So this is a really interesting debate. Also, we might only creatively can resolve. Because I know you're working on a recycling plastic project at the moment. Would you like to talk about it a little bit, please?
Yes. Yes, one of these big projects that are rolling over the maker movement is the precious plastic. The idea is to decentralize the process of recycling plastic. The Fab Lab, there is this discussion that we have machines that make machines. So we can create machines from what we have. And now we are going to a discussion of machines that make factories. So what we try to experiment in our Fab Lab is to try to find a way to scale up a little bit the production of certain new things. So we have done, we just finished 2 days ago, the Eco Agenda of Porto that is not released yet, but is 100% made of plastic from fruit boxes from the north of Portugal that we shredded in our machines, that we melted, and we cut in the laser cutter. And in our small Fab Lab, we have made it 3,000 books, covers for the Eco Agenda of Porto. Everything in partnership with the Câmara do Porto, the City Hall of Porto. So this is something that we are trying to push a lot, that we need to decentralize the solution. Okay, there is a lot of people with amazing ideas, and the access to technology and the access to tools that can put things to work and solve the problem of our city, the problems of our neighborhood, or the problems of our house. We try to advocate the idea that we need a more empowered citizen and more autonomous community to solve the problems that we're facing today.
So this is all about that we have to know how things get made, and we have to be able to become makers again, right?
Can I add one quick thing to that? You guys are talking about making jewelry. What I'm wearing here is actually reclaimed metal from waste, e-waste from circuit boards, from a supply chain that was established in Vietnam by an organization called Fashion for Freedom. And this is a lovely way to think about how we can pull into the angle on sustainability and also craftsmanship. These are made by artisans there. So we need to get you guys some metal for your jewelry.
So, well, thank you very much. I know we can continue in this. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember those two lovely faces. You will see them far more often into the city. Also, if you want to start to work and need a place to, where my same-minded people is, these two people created those spaces. So there are no excuses. You can just walk in Viva Lab anytime if you want to. Please come to the Indie Worker next week. It's going to be fantastic. And I will see you you all at the laser cutters and 3D printers, because that's where actually all belong, because we have to do stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.